There comes a moment, quiet, terrifying, where you realize the life you're living no longer fits. And the scariest part isn't knowing it's over. It's not knowing what comes next. Because starting again doesn't just mean change, it means loss of plans, of identity, of certainty. But what if starting over isn't failure? What if it's growth in disguise? In this video, we're going to talk about why starting over feels so heavy, why the fear of the unknown keeps so many people stuck, and how you can rebuild not from scratch but from strength. And maybe for the first time, you'll see that starting again isn't the end of your story. It's where it finally begins to make sense. They told you to be consistent. That success comes from staying the course, proving your commitment, finishing what you started. And maybe you believed them. Maybe that belief kept you stuck for years in a job that drained you, a relationship that hollowed you out, a version of yourself that no longer felt alive. Because starting over, that wasn't an option. It felt like failure. That's the lie most people live under, that changing direction means you were wrong all along. That walking away means you lacked discipline, that choosing a new beginning means you wasted your past. And so, you keep performing consistency like a badge of honor. You force yourself to stay, even when your soul is begging you to leave. But let's be honest, how many times have you stayed, not because it felt right, but because you were afraid of how others would see you? Because society rewards endurance, not evolution. Because leaving feels like confessing defeat. Because deep down, you've tied your identity to the very thing that's hurting you. You've been trained to see progress as a straight line, to believe that detours are disasters, that doubt means weakness, that quitting means you're a coward. But what if the real cowardice is staying in a life that's slowly killing your spirit? There's a strange kind of grief in starting again, not just for what you're leaving, but for who you were when you started. And that's why it hurts. That's why it feels like you're ripping up pages you spent years writing. But here's the truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is set the whole book down and start a new one. Because staying isn't always strength, and leaving isn't always failure. Sometimes it takes more courage to walk away from something familiar than to keep enduring it. You're not weak for wanting more. You're not broken for outgrowing what used to fit. You're evolving, and evolution always looks like destruction before it looks like clarity. So if you're standing at the edge, wondering whether it's too late to start again, I need you to know something. It's not. Starting over doesn't erase your story. It honors it, because now you begin not from innocence, but from wisdom. But maybe that's not what you're really afraid of. Maybe the fear isn't in starting, but in not knowing how it ends. And that brings us to the real reason this feels so terrifying. Let's talk about it. If this content is resonating with you, consider subscribing. I make videos that help you see the world and yourself more clearly. Thank you. Let's be honest. You're not afraid to start again. You've started before. New jobs, new cities, new versions of yourself. But this time it feels different. Heavier. Not because the first step is harder, but because the ending is completely unknown. That's what haunts you. Not the beginning, but the void beyond it. The silence after you say yes. The uncharted path where certainty used to be. You ask yourself in the quiet moments, what if I leave and regret it? What if I fail again? What if I lose even more? This is the fear no one likes to name, the fear of ambiguity, of moving without guarantees, of building without blueprints. You've been taught to love plans, timelines, predictability. But beginnings don't come with closure. They come with questions. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally unsolvable. They can never be solved, only outgrown. And this is one of them. The need to know how things will turn out. You cannot solve it. You can only grow past it. And yet we resist that truth. We beg the universe for clarity before we take the leap. But clarity doesn't come first. Courage does. The fear doesn't leave, you just learn to walk with it. Because no matter how long you wait, you will never feel fully ready. Readiness is a lie we use to delay risk. At some point, you either move scared or you don't move at all. And if you're waiting for the fear to disappear, you'll wait forever. Fear doesn't vanish with time. It only quiets when it sees you act in spite of it. This is why so many people stay stuck. Not because they lack the skill or the passion, but because they can't stomach the unknown. They want to know it'll work out. They want proof before the process. But you don't get that. You don't get to peek at the last page. You just show up, heart trembling, hands shaking, and take one imperfect step into the dark. And still, there's something deeper that eats at you. It's not just the fear of failing again. It's the feeling that you're going back to square one, that all the pain, the time, the struggle meant nothing. But what if that's another illusion? Because you're not starting from nothing. You're not that naive version of yourself who tried the first time. You've seen things, lost things, survived things, and that changes everything. Let's talk about what you think you've lost, but haven't. It feels like you're back at the beginning, doesn't it? Like all those years meant nothing. Like all that effort, all those nights you didn't sleep, the versions of yourself you outgrew and abandoned were wasted. You look around, and the people who never took risks seem ahead. The ones who never questioned the path still have their structure. And here you are, raw, uncertain, trying to convince yourself that this new chapter is not a step backwards. But let me ask you this. Who told you healing would look like progress? Who told you that real growth leaves behind a clean timeline? You haven't lost time. You've lived. You've learned things in the dark that no book, no degree, no comfort zone could have ever taught you. You've felt heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal. You've made mistakes. You've trusted the wrong people. You've stayed too long and left too soon. And every one of those moments left a mark on you. Not to break you, but to carve depth into you. You carry wisdom now, even if it feels messy, even if it still hurts. You don't just know what you want. You know what you can't return to. You don't just see red flags now. You feel them in your body. You know the difference between being needed and being used, between endurance and self-abandonment, between peace and silence. You think you're starting from scratch, but you're not. You're starting from scars, from experience, from the quiet understanding that nothing out there can define who you are in here. And yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's humbling. But the ground you're building on now is real, because it's been broken before. You've already been shattered. Now you know what's worth protecting. So no, you're not behind. You're not late. You're not lost. You are rebuilding. But this time, you're doing it with intention, with insight, with a kind of strength that doesn't scream, but breathes. And that strength doesn't come from making one huge decision. It comes from small choices, subtle shifts, the kind of changes no one claps for, but that change everything. So let's talk about that. Because the smallest step, the one no one sees, might be the one that rewrites your entire life. You keep telling yourself you need a big change, a total reset, a dramatic exit, a perfect plan, a grand gesture to prove you're finally serious. But that's another lie the mind tells to delay the real work. Because real change isn't loud. It doesn't come in explosions. It arrives quietly, disguised as something ordinary. One honest conversation you've been avoiding. One morning where you get up 5 minutes earlier. One message you don't send. One boundary you don't apologize for. That's how it begins. You don't rebuild your life in a single decision. You rebuild it in small, almost invisible steps. The kind no one celebrates. The kind you might not even notice. Until one day, you wake up and realize you're no longer in survival mode. You're no longer pretending. You're finally living in alignment with what matters. The courage you're looking for doesn't live in the future. It lives in the moment you choose not to betray yourself today, even in the smallest way. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." But sometimes the how is so small it feels like it doesn't matter. You wonder if that journal entry changed anything, if skipping that one phone call actually protected your peace, if saying no this time really made a difference. It did, because every small decision is a vote for the person you're becoming, not the person you perform, but the one you're learning to honor. There will be days when the progress is invisible, days when nothing looks different, days when you want to give up because you can't feel the change happening. But that's how growth works. It's silent, interior, slow. It matures in the dark before it ever blooms in the light. You don't need a new life. You just need to stop abandoning yourself in this one. Start where you are, not where you wish you were. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the fear to go away. Take the step anyway, especially when it's small, especially when no one sees it. Because those quiet steps, taken consistently, taken with integrity, become the path. And maybe the life you want isn't waiting somewhere far away. Maybe it's waiting in the moment you finally decide to stop trying to leap and just choose to move, even if it's only one step, even if your voice trembles, even if no one claps, because your life doesn't need to be rebuilt overnight. It only needs you to begin gently but fully from where you are. So start again, even if you're scared, because you're not starting from nothing. You're starting from everything you've survived.